joining us now from San Diego, keeping it on the West Coast with more on Facebook's first shareholder meeting, is Marie Smith, author of The New Relationship Marketing and co-author of Facebook Marketing, An Hour a Day. Marie, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Let's get straight into it. Facebook stock price is down nearly 37% from its offering price of $38 a share. That was the big concern for shareholders during the shareholder meeting. So do you think Mark Zuckerberg did a good job addressing the stock's poor performance?
You know, he did a decent job, quite honestly. He was his usual self in all these different meetings where he can dodge the heaviest of questions. I think he placated some, but I'm sure there's still a lot of unrest among investors and really wanting to know when they can get their money back and how long to hold.
Well, as we heard there from our reporter Mark New in San Francisco, Zuckerberg declined to comment whether the stock is a buy at $24. Do you personally think that the shares will reach $38 again, and how soon?
It was going to be a long time. I personally, I wouldn't like to predict, but gosh, you know, I mean that woman, I tuned into the shareholders meeting earlier today, and she was saying, you know, 2 years, and I think it was going to be at least 2 years, but who knows?
So a lot of dissatisfaction from the shareholders about the stock price, but some dissatisfaction as well from users. And the most common subject in the Q&A session was user dissatisfaction with the newsfeed algorithm. So what do you think Facebook needs to do to address this newsfeed issue?
This has been an issue for so many years, and I would love to see the users having much more control where they can set their own settings, where they can choose if they only have maybe 200 or 300 friends, that they can instantly see exact chronological order and set that as default. I think the unrest comes from users, whether they're there for personal or business reasons, when they feel that Facebook is choosing the content that they can see on their behalf and that they don't really have a lot of control over that. Truth be told, they do. They actually have a lot of control over it, a lot of granular settings they can get in there through lists and having a friend list called close friend lists, and interest lists is a wonderful way to do it.
Not the simplest process, though, as a Facebook user myself. You've really got to get really technical to figure out who you're showing what. But one of the things that Zuckerberg also reaffirmed with regards to disclosure is that the company does not work directly with the National Security Agency or any government agency seeking user information, and that it never compromised any user data. How big of an impact was the NSA scandal on Facebook, and how big of an impact can it have?
Well, I think there's kind of two camps when it comes to Facebook users. There's those that get very territorial, and they're like, this is my data, this is my own private content I'm sharing with my friends, my family, and Facebook can't touch it, and the government can't touch it. And then there's people who are in another camp, which is the one that I'm in, where I just absolutely do not share anything on Facebook, in fact, anything on the internet that I'm not comfortable being out there in a big way, quite honestly. And so I'm very private in some aspects of my life, and many of my colleagues and I, we call it selective transparency.
Well, Marie, I think if more people were like you, Mark Zuckerberg really wouldn't have a business, because that's one of the big things that's going for Facebook, is sharing all this information and that huge audience that he has. And the big question is still, how can Facebook really monetize that audience? Do you think the company's on the right strategy there?
I really do. And Mark Zuckerberg this morning, he talked at length about the mobile and the ad products that they're really refining for the mobile, because 3/4 of that 1.1 billion active users are accessing the site through mobile. 751 million they're accessing every day, and it's a tiny little screen that you are serving a lot of data on there. And they've done really well, Facebook, in terms of, you know, inserting sponsored stories, and now, in fact, just recently, you can actually advertise a web link. Before, it had to be something on Facebook. Now you can advertise your own website right in that mobile news feed. So, you know, 30% of their ad revenue is coming from the mobile ads right now. I think they're definitely on the right track.
Okay, very quickly, the company has $11 billion of cash. Any more acquisitions in the pipeline?
Oh, no doubt. They've got their eye. You know, they had their eye on the navigation app Waze out of Israel. I think Google's going to win that one for sure, though. But they probably have their eye on quite a few different acquisitions out there. I'd love to see Facebook putting more money into educating the small business owners, the small to medium-sized business owners, on how to better utilize the platform, how to really, really use the ad products. Because I feel that they're often not really given as much attention as the major brands that spend millions.
It's an interesting point. Be sure to bring it up at the next shareholders meeting with Mark Zuckerberg. Thank you so much for now. Marie Smith, author of The New Relationship Marketing and co-author of Facebook Marketing an Hour a Day. Thanks again for joining us.
Marie Smith. Thank you, Michelle.
Marie Smith. Thank you. Okay, then.
My pleasure.